This is our sixth event in our guest lecture series. The Center for Entrepreneurship is all of 2 years old. We offer now a major in entrepreneurship if you are attending the business college. And if you're not a business student, we offer a certificate in entrepreneurship that includes curriculum at your home colleges as well as at the business college. So your Center for Entrepreneurship is growing. We've got a number of events, and this is number 6, and I'm really looking forward to it. A couple of upcoming things for you to think about. You had flyers out on the tables tonight. On April 11th, the center will be hosting its 3rd annual idea pitch competition. We typically have 10 or 11 or 12 student teams. It is not a business plan competition. It has very little to do with business planning. It is how to express your idea and how to win votes and prize money, and we'll coach you before the event. So if you have an idea or want to put a small team together, please check out our website, ou.edu/entrepreneurship. And then this summer, we're running our second, in partnership with the OU Innovation Center and others, the second accelerator program that we call the Innovation Engine, and it's a 10-week crash course on coming together, forming your team, learning a lot, and then at the end of the summer pitching to potential investors about your company and your product. And this year we'll be teaching, we'll have 2 venture capitalists teaching the Lean Launchpad curriculum. So we're incorporating some new learning opportunities, and we'll also continue with a lot of mentoring from business leaders and others. So look for that as well. Lots of opportunities here lately at OU. So with that, John Glazer.
Hi, I'm John Glazer, and I'm the director of Tech Growth Ohio. I know a lot of folks in the audience because they're thinking about starting up companies and have come to our organization for help. One of the things that came up during a dinner conversation earlier this evening was how the language of entrepreneurship is often buried in a technical jargon of business startup, commercialization, pathways, capital access plans, feasibility studies, the kinds of things that business folks understand and know about, but students from other areas might look at that and say, well, that's like a foreign language. Took me a long time, but I realized that professional accountants have created a language to disguise the fact that their discipline is only adding and subtracting. At any rate, I'm hoping that we can get out of the sort of Center for Entrepreneurship jargon and address the fact that human beings form organizations to get things done. The things that they try to do try to solve problems. And getting things done need to solve the problem, but also in a sustainable way that works and lasts and things like that. And that's what social entrepreneurship is about, is combining solutions to problems with effective organizations that get them done. And a while ago, a friend of mine said to me, there's this guy in Columbus that you got to meet. His name is Tony Wells. And so I said, all right, I'll meet this guy. So we set up a time and we met in Columbus, and I'm listening to brilliant ideas, passionately expressed, articulately expressed, with deep insight into the problems that I've been struggling with for a long, long time. So I think that we're going to find in tonight's speaker, and I hope you can do this, someone that speaks to what you envision you want to do with a life, with the responsibility that comes from being educated, a citizen, and somebody with ideas. Well, Tony Wells started over 10 years ago a foundation, immodestly called the Tony R. Wells Foundation, and its mission is to create value for communities, to solve problems for communities, but to do that by developing strong nonprofit leaders of the nonprofit organizations through which communities come together to identify and solve their problems, and then also, and significantly, by investing in the next generation of social innovation. So entrepreneurship, innovation, communities solving problems, that's the topic of our presentation tonight. The fund, the Tony R. Wells Foundation, is the largest funder of social entrepreneurship activities in the Columbus area, and they have deeply engaged with education and students. Last year alone, the activities funded and sponsored by the foundation engaged over 1,500 students in social entrepreneurship activities. So it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker for tonight, Tony Wells.
Can you guys hear this okay? Perfect. Well, thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule. I'm going to lower this down just a little bit because it seems loud. But thanks for taking time the evening to spend a little time with me. As John said, I have a family foundation, and this evening we're going to spend a little time talking about some of my business experiences, how my wife and I decided to form the family foundation, and some of the activities that we have throughout the Central Ohio area working with nonprofits and students like you. One of the things that makes me most passionate, of course, is thinking about the next generation of entrepreneurs, the next generation of business leaders, social innovators. And so I spend a lot of time with students like you, trying to understand what your views of the world are. I mean, we live in a world of globalization. A lot of you come from around the world. You've experienced social challenges from around the world that sometimes we don't have here in the United States. And so I'm here to learn as much from you as you're going to hear from me. So they always say that you should start with something very interesting about yourself that the audience might be intrigued with. So I have had many careers. And so for those who can't figure out what you want to be when you grow up, or you're still trying to figure out what your major is going to be while you're at the university, my very first career was I was a pig farmer. And from there, I worked in the Honda factory, which is on the other side of Marysville, for 3 years. I was an IT geek. That was my original undergrad work. Became an entrepreneur and started several companies, and was very blessed to retire when I was 39. And I've spent the last 12 years as a philanthropist, a social entrepreneur, investor. I've also started 4 companies, a couple of nonprofits in addition to the foundation. And there has been times of my life where I've made $6,000 a year for the entire year, and for you non-accounting majors, that's a lot of money. And there's been the last 10 years where I've worked absolutely for free, dedicating my time to the community, trying to make the world a better place. So I thought that I would give you a little introduction of my background, as well as tell you a secret. And I'm going to tell you a secret tonight a lot of people don't know, but from my own past experience, has made probably the biggest influence on my business success. And I want to share that with you tonight. We're also going to talk about some creative philanthropy that our foundation does, talk about social entrepreneurship, and then I'm going to give you some examples of young social entrepreneurs that I'm absolutely inspired by, and it keeps me getting up every single day, going out in the community and trying to create change. So let's start out from a business perspective. The last company that I started was an IT training and education company, and had that business for 9 years. It was very blessed that over a couple-year period, was in over 50 business magazines, Entrepreneur of the Year, Small Business Person of the Year, Entrepreneur Magazine, Success Magazine, Computer World. I was very blessed. We started out in Columbus, Ohio, with a single classroom, and the square footage of my entire office was about this auditorium. And 9 years later, we grew from a single classroom at about 2,400 square feet to 120 classrooms, over 300,000 square feet in 18 cities across the U.S. and Canada. And so these were some of the buildings that we occupied all over the country. But probably like most entrepreneurs that you've had stand in front of you, my story is very similar in terms of how we got started. So I was working in IT consulting, came up with this harebrained idea for IT training and education that was much, much different than what anybody else had done, so I was going to be first to market. I had spent 18 months writing the business plan, and then I went to my wife and I said, honey, I got it all worked out. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our savings account, our checking account, we're going to drain our 3-year-old's college account. I need you to liquidate your retirement account, my retirement account, and I'm going to borrow the rest of the money from the bank, and we're going to get started. Aren't you excited? And she said, do you think you can do it? I said, absolutely, we're going to do this. So I spent 4 or 5 months knocking on every door of a bank, saying I'd like to borrow money. My wife and I are computer science majors. We're gainfully employed. I'd like to start this company. And like many of you have probably experienced, when you are first to market, you get this great idea, but nobody's ever heard of it before. It's really tough to get money. So I had every single bank turn me down, except for one, who was nice enough to give me a second mortgage on my house. So I went back to my wife and I said, honey, I got it all figured out again. Not only are we going to use savings, checking, all of our retirement account, our kids' college account, we're going to second mortgage the house. Better yet, to make up the gap, I'm going to charge $30,000 on credit cards and borrow $20,000 from my grandparents. And we're going to get started. And if we don't make money in 3 months, we may not be able to pay the mortgage. And she said, do you think you could do it? And I said, yes. And that's how we got started. So the first year of my life in my business was working, getting there at 6 in the morning, leaving at midnight every night. My 3-year-old would bring me dinner every single night in the office. And that's what we did for an entire year until we figured out how to grow the business. And we were very fortunate that we had a great idea. It was good timing. The technology was really taking off. And we grew it into an international company. Then at the beginning of 2000, my lovely wife walks into my office, and by then we're both working in the office. And she said, guess what? I'm pregnant. And it's now going to be 11 years in between kids. So my oldest daughter is 23, graduated from Miami of Ohio 2 years ago, and my youngest is 12. And my wife said, when I have this one in August, I don't think I'm coming back to the company. I think, I'd like to play mom for the first time. And so here we are. We got these great ambitious goals that we have 18 offices. We're going to grow to 50 offices. We're going to conquer the world. And I said, it just wouldn't be any fun without you. So we packaged up the company. We sold the company at the beginning of 2001. And that gave us a year to think about, what are we going to do with the second half of our careers, our lives? I mean, we're retiring by the time we're 40. What are we going to do? So we started thinking about all the things that we're really passionate about, things that affected our lives. And the things that have always affected my life was technology, being an entrepreneur, but more importantly, being invested in our community. I had already been serving on nonprofit boards for 12 years. Joined my first board when I was just slightly older than you guys were at 27. And that really shaped my life, community service and being involved with a nonprofit. So we decided the second half of our career was going to be a family foundation in which we provided philanthropic support, but most importantly, we were going to teach entrepreneurship to nonprofit organizations. So these are some of the many organizations I've worked with. I'm a founding board member for A Kid Again. We started that in 1995. Groundwork Group, which is an organization we're going to talk about in a little bit. We were the founders of that. And I was very, very blessed. I got to grow up working with passionate people who serve the community every single day. And these are the people that inspired me. So when I finally had some wealth, I wanted to figure out how could I help make them successful by applying, entrepreneurship thinking, creative thinking, business principles. How can I help them serve more people? So we've worked with about 90 different nonprofit organizations. And as John said, we're the largest funder of social entrepreneurship activities at Ohio State, and last year had over 1,500 students involved. But I've also had a chance to travel the world as part of our foundation, because we're really concerned about poverty. We're concerned about how entrepreneurship can solve poverty issues. So how many people have seen the movie Slumdog Millionaire? This is where I'm at. This is Mumbai, India. I spent the entire afternoon visiting with families in the same slums as Slumdog Millionaire. And trust me, it's worse than what you actually see in the movie. So people live in 5 by 7 rooms. It's worse than any dorm room that you've ever had. No plumbing, So everybody goes out and takes a squat out back, a little rubber hose coming in underneath the door for a little water. And these are some of the pictures as I'm just walking through the slums. You can see the lines there. Those are makeshift water lines running through the community. Little boys, little girls. And this is an interesting story. This is the only 4 little girls in this entire slums that's actually going to school. So now there are slums throughout India and throughout Mumbai, but in this particular slums there's about 500 families. But these are the only 4 little girls who are getting an opportunity to break the cycle of poverty and move out of the slums. They're getting an education. And how they're getting an education is through an organization called the Mahindra Foundation. It's a family foundation who had a goal of providing 100,000 young ladies the opportunity to get an education in India. And as you well know, if you're from the region or if you've ever visited India, it's the boy child who gets all the education. The girl child is often married off at 12 or 13 years old. And so while I was visiting with these families, something really interesting happened to me that's related to entrepreneurship. So the mother invites me into the room, and of course in this room is 5 by 7. The only thing in this room is a bed and shelves. That's the only furniture in the entire room of a mother, a father, and 2 children. And she says, please sit down on her bed. We're all sitting there. And she says, 1 minute, I'll be right back. And she disappears for 5 minutes. And you got to remember, in India, the average wage is about $2 a day. About 5 minutes later, she comes back and she has a single bottle of Coke. And she opens it up and she takes down the tin cups off the shelves and she pours it into the tin cups. And she says, welcome to my home. So even the people in the poorest area of the community still respect people as visitors. But of course, the business guy, the entrepreneur in me says, where in the heck did she get a Coke? I mean, we're embedded inside the slums. There's nothing around. So I asked the interpreter, where did you get a Coke at? I couldn't imagine that there's like a 7-Eleven down the street that she's going to run down and get this thing from. And she said, oh yeah, we have a store. Let's see the store. So they walk me down one of those aisleways, and here's this guy who's got a plank run across there, and he rides his bicycle down and he buys small quantities of things and he brings it back to the community and he sells it as a store. And like, wow, this is really cool. We got entrepreneurship inside the slums. What else you got? And they start showing me pictures of, oh yeah, see, that's an advertisement for somebody who will fix bicycles. And this is somebody who actually mends clothes. And they had this entire entrepreneur ecosystem inside the poorest areas of the world. And so I've been very blessed that I have visited the favelas of São Paulo, the slums of São Paulo. I've been to Brazil. I've been to Turkey. For all of you ladies in the room, you'll be surprised to hear that only 7% of women in Turkey actually work outside the home. And it's because those 7% are bold enough to actually ask their husband if they're allowed to make their own money. So I'm really passionate about entrepreneurship. I'm passionate about social entrepreneurship, how entrepreneurship activities can solve social issues. I'm also a runner, and I've run around the world. I've run in Tokyo and Rome, and this is actually at 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm getting ready to do a marathon on the Great Wall of China. And the next picture I'm going to show you is to demonstrate that students around the world are all the same. I like to take classes, so I've taken classes at the University of Hong Kong and Istanbul, Turkey, and so forth. And at 6 o'clock in the morning, I got up and I went for a run, and I found this guy. And this just demonstrates that students are all the same, drink, vomit, pass out, 6 o'clock in the morning, right in the middle of campus and, in Hong Kong. Now, you can't see his buddies were there to take care of him, make sure he's okay and everything, but they were amused that, I would stop and take a picture. So one of the things I want to share with you tonight is a secret. Again, something that is related to social entrepreneurship, as well as your professional development. I stumbled into this, and later in life realized what an impact it made on my life. And that I was very blessed to grow up in a family who believed in community service. And I know that part of the very tenets of Ohio University is about professional development. It's about being involved in society and being involved in community. But I started volunteering at an organization called Goodwill Columbus when I was about 24, 25. And by the time I was 27, they asked me to be on the board, okay? That was one of the best opportunities that I ever had, because I was then working with professionals that was 20 and 30 years older than I was. These were CEOs of corporations. These were nonprofit leaders. These were philanthropic leaders. And what it helped me understand is that a true business leader, a true entrepreneur, is someone who is heavily invested in their community. It's not just about making money, it's about what you do with that money. And so, as a country, we have a long history of taking our personal wealth and reinvesting it in building better universities and better churches and better schools. And so, one of the best advice that I can give to you as your career is get involved now. Make it a goal to be involved in a nonprofit, get onto that board. And I tell you, when I started my businesses, that was like a launching pad. I had coaches and mentors and people who lifted me up and opened doors for me more than I could have ever done myself. And it's not because they liked me. I had demonstrated that I was committed to the cause of goodwill, to serving people with disabilities. We had a common vision of serving the community, and it wasn't about they were making $1 million, and I was barely surviving starting my own company. It was about a common vision and a common cause. And so one of the best things you can do is get involved with the nonprofit community, join a board, and I guarantee you, whatever you do in your career, you are going to be heads and shoulders above anyone else at your age in terms of success. Just to, once I retired, when I was 39, I started trying to figure out what makes a great leader. After I thought I was a leader, I thought I better just study and figure out what makes a great leader. And throughout time, if you look at the resume of every great leader, not people who become wealthy, but true leaders in society, you'll find the same credentials on every single resume. And that is, we could talk about John Rockefeller, but who cares what happened in the 1800s, right? But somebody like Richard Branson. Richard Branson started his first nonprofit when he was 17 years old. He was passionate about solving problems and doing it in a very business-like way. And today, he still has that culture throughout his entire organization where he encourages every single person in the organization to be empowered to look at social issues around the world and how do we leverage the resources that we've got here at Virgin Atlantic, Virgin Phone, Virgin, you name it, he owns everything. How do we use our wealth and our resources to improve society and serve people in need? Now, I know one of the things that you're saying to me is, Tony, it's really easy. You've already made your money, so it's easy to give it away and make a difference. One of the first things I did when I sold the company is I made a gift to Goodwill Columbus. Because I was that 27-year-old guy on the board who was watching everybody else writing checks for $20,000 and $30,000. Well, when you're a CEO of Nationwide Insurance or Columbia Gas, you can write checks. When you own your own business, they say you got time, talent, and treasure. I had no treasure. What I had is I was an IT geek, I had time, and I had talent. So I was always the first guy to show up and repair the computers or help them with whatever they need. And so it was my great pleasure that when I sold my company, the first check I wrote to them was $215,000 to make up for 10 years of coaching and mentoring me, because the CEO always said to me, the money is not important. What you give to us is more valuable than any check that any of these other guys are writing, because you're giving time and your talent and you're committed, okay? So I understand sitting in your shoes, some of you are probably, working part-time jobs. You're probably saying, I'm a student, I don't have any money, what can I do? I want to give you a great example. And I have to apologize because I live in Columbus. You might see OSU on some of these and not OU. But I hope that by working together over the next couple years, that I will see your successes and I will be integrating it into my presentations and I'll be sharing it as I travel around the world. But we had a student by the name of Mark Titus at Ohio State. Mark Titus was a basketball player. He was good enough to make the team and never good enough to play. He rode the bench his entire basketball career. But starting his junior year, he started writing a blog about himself, making fun of himself. He even made himself eligible for the MBA and held a press conference. He started doing things that was drawing attention to, he's just as much about the team. He's not the guys out on the court, but he's practicing every single day, and he write blogs about, the coach is looking at maybe this is my time to go in. And so he started this big fan club. He had all kinds of students who would show up, chanting his name, hoping they'd put him into a game. It was like a movie. And so he started this club of students who would sit in the audience. It's called Club Trill, because his record was 1 and all zeros. And he had so much of a following that he decided he was going to make T-shirts called Club Trill and have an entire audience cheering him on, even though he wasn't playing on the court. And so he went to the university and said, "Hey, I'm gonna sell some T-shirts." They said, "I'm sorry, you're an athlete, you're a scholar athlete, and so you can't make any money off of this." He said, "No problem." He said, "I'll just give it to charity." So Mark starts on a campaign for the next year, his senior year, to sell Club Trill T-shirts. And he chose an organization called A Kid Again. He worked with children with life-threatening diseases. In his senior year, sold 4,200 T-shirts. We shipped them to alumni in 7 countries around the world. We had alumni who was following him everywhere, and he was promoting himself and A Kid Again, and he generated over $50,000 for A Kid Again in T-shirt sales. So here's a guy with no money, just like you guys, but he had time and he had talent. And so it's never too late as you start thinking about, as you're sitting here at the university, I'm learning some great information while I'm inside the classroom. I've got a natural passion to serve. I feel compelled to help others. Just because you don't have any money doesn't mean you can't be creative and come up with a program like this. So I want to talk to you a little about some of our entrepreneurial efforts once I sold the company. And I mentioned to you that one of our focus was IT infrastructure. We wanted nonprofits to do a better job of fundraising, being able to be accountable to the community through demonstration of how many people they serve. We ultimately wanted them to be more efficient so they could help more people. So we were using IT skills as an enablement really to help more people. And after a couple years, we were approached by the United Way of Central Ohio, and they said, "Hey, how would you like to come up with a common set of IT solutions for all of our nonprofits in the United Way? Big Brothers, Big Sisters, Red Cross, American Cancer Society, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts." Wow, that was a big task. And so I said, well, we'll co-fund it with you. I'll be the chair of the committee. I recruited CIOs, entrepreneurs, nonprofit leaders, business leaders, philanthropic leaders, and we said, if we could help nonprofits be more efficient through the use of technology, we could save our community $10 million a year. $10 million a year that could help more people. And we think that we could potentially generate an extra 100,000 hours of service to people in need. So we formed a committee. We worked 3 years. I had 1,200 meetings in 2 years, organizing people in the committee. I recruited 200 volunteers with the sole purpose is that we wanted to find a solution for our nonprofits so they could serve more people. So after 3 years, we wrote the business plan, we funded it, we hired our first CEO. I'll spin forward a little bit. We started that company in 2006, so they're in their 7th year. They now employ 15 IT professionals, and they provide IT services to over 200 nonprofits. More importantly, we're saving our community millions of dollars a year through this social innovation, applying business techniques to a social sector, right? And so whether it was building personal wealth for myself or creating societal wealth for my community, it was the same skills. And so in addition, what makes this so important when you think about the scalability of it and the reach of it, those 200 nonprofits employ 6,000 people. That's 6,000 people who we've made their lives easier to do their jobs. And those 6,000 people serve 600 600,000 people in need. So how many of you can envision creating a company where you're improving the quality of life and services for 600,000 people? I didn't do it on my own. There was 200 of us who pulled this together. But we did it because we wanted to design a nonprofit that could be scalable, it could be as sustainable as any business. And so it was a new model for Columbus. It's the most successful social enterprise concept that we've got in Columbus. And we've recently expanded to Orange County in the last year. And our plan is to open up other cities across the country. So this is another great example of seeing someone in need, taking the skills and the talent you have, collaborating with other people, and using that innovation mindset, that entrepreneurial skill set that you've got, and be able to apply it to the nonprofit sector and get great results. The second story or example I want to show you is somebody who we met out at Stanford. And this goes back about 5 years ago. We were truly, truly inspired by this group of students. They actually had won the social entrepreneurship business plan competition out there. And what this group decided to do is focus on a social problem around the world. Oops. See if I can go back. And the problem was 20,000 premature babies are born each year. 450 of them die every hour. How do we solve that problem? How do we fix that problem? How do we think differently about that problem? And so what these guys did, you've all gone to concerts and ball games, and you've got the insulated cooler, put your beverages in. These guys decided they're going to cut apart the cooler, right? And they're going to stitch it back together as like a baby sleeping bag. Because the solution to keeping these babies alive is warmth. And if they could figure out how to wrap them in this cocoon for 4 hours, that could keep them alive. And so what they did is they built a solution that cost $25. Here in the United States, if you were born low birth weight or premature, we put you in a $20,000 incubator. In India, they put you underneath a light bulb. These guys figured out a way to come up with a $25 solution to a $20,000 problem. And so we're going to switch computers here because we're having some difficulty with the security. And I want to show you a video of Chen, who was the student member. And I want to let you know that what these guys did is they raised $1.5 million on a social innovation. Everybody always thinks that, the only money that you'll ever raise from a venture capitalist or angel investor is something that makes a lot of money. It's got to be a new app, it's got to be Facebook. I tell you what, you're saving lives around the world, you're compelled to make a difference. There is that unique set of money from organizations like mine, philanthropists who say, this is really about making social change. So let me introduce you to Chen. Got to do a little maneuvering here. Oops. Okay. First we got to...
I think I know how.
Okay. And make that full screen.
Press pause. And see if I remember this.
You got a hotkey to...
No, I think if there's a hotkey to get the dual monitors, is that it?
Yeah.
And is that Control F? Function this guy. And it is duplicate.
Yeah.
And there it goes.
Perfect.
And full screen.
Yeah, we are in business.
Is that the full screen?
Yeah.
All right.
All right. Thank you, John.
Please close your eyes and open your hands. Now imagine what you could place in your hands. An apple, maybe your wallet. Now open your eyes. What about a life? What you see here is a premature baby. He looks like he's resting peacefully, but in fact he's struggling to stay alive because he can't regulate his own body temperature. This baby is so tiny he doesn't have enough fat on his body to stay warm. Sadly, 20 million babies like this are born every year around the world. 4 million of these babies die annually. But the bigger problem is that the ones who do survive grow up with severe long-term health problems. The reason is because in the first month of a baby's life, its only job is to grow. If it's battling hypothermia, its organs can't develop normally, resulting in a range of health problems from diabetes to heart disease to low IQ. Imagine, many of these problems could be prevented if these babies were just kept warm. That is the primary function of an incubator. But traditional incubators require electricity and cost up to $20,000, so you're not going to find them in rural areas of developing countries. As a result, parents resort to local solutions like tiny hot water bottles around their babies' bodies, or placing them under light bulbs like the ones you see here, methods that are both ineffective and unsafe. I've seen this firsthand over and over again. On one of my first trips to India, I met this young woman, Savita, who had just given birth to a tiny premature baby, Rani. She took her baby to the nearest village clinic, and the doctor advised her to take Rani to a city hospital so she could be placed in an incubator. But that hospital was over 4 hours away, and Savita didn't have the means to get there. So her baby died. Inspired by this story and dozens of other similar stories like this, my team and I realized what was needed was a local solution, something that could work without electricity, that was simple enough for a mother or a midwife to use, given that the majority of births still take place in the home. We needed something that was portable, something that could be sterilized and reused across multiple babies, and something ultra low cost compared to the $20,000 that an incubator in the US costs. So this is what we came up with. What you see here looks nothing like an incubator. It looks like a small sleeping bag for a baby. You can open it up completely. It's waterproof. There's no seams inside, so you can sterilize it very easily. But the magic is in this pouch of wax. This is a phase change material. It's a wax-like substance with a melting point of human body temperature, 37 degrees Celsius. You can melt this simply using hot water, and then when it melts, it's able to maintain one constant temperature for 4 to 6 hours at a time, after which you simply reheat the pouch. So you then place it into this little pocket back here, and it creates a warm microenvironment for the baby. Looks simple, but we've reiterated this dozens of times by going into the field to talk to doctors, moms, and clinicians to ensure that this really meets the needs of the local communities. We plan to launch this product in India in 2010, and the target price point will be $25, less than 0.1% of the cost.
Isn't that a great story? And so I came back after seeing that, and I went to Ohio State in my own backyard. That's because I didn't know John or anybody else at Ohio University. And I said, why can't we do that? You know, we have all of this great, we've got gazillions of dollars worth of engineering labs, material labs. We got industrial designers. We got speech therapists. We got all of these passionate students who are preparing themselves for the next careers that see opportunities all the time. Why can't we leverage all the resources at the university, and why can't we invent things that make a difference? Giving an opportunity for students to learn entrepreneurship while they're at the university, it doesn't make any difference whether they ever want to become an entrepreneur or not. They want to be social innovators. They want to solve problems. They want to be able to leave the university saying, I've done something special. And so we started a program called the Social Innovation and Commercialization Project at Ohio State. And we decided we're going to teach entrepreneurship while doing good. And so far, we've developed 5 products. Only 3 of them are going to survive and actually go to the market. One of them is with the Down Syndrome Association. How many people know that 60% of young adults with Downs can't tell time? If you can't tell time, can't go to school, can't go to class, can't get a job, can't be independent, can't manage your day. We've created a device that looks like a leapfrog toy that's going to solve that problem. So we've been working on it for the last 2.5 years. We are going out actually to Leapfrog next month and pitching them on the idea of being our business partner because they have the manufacturing expertise and they have the marketplace. But these were invented by students. And when they graduated from the university, they had their names on patents. And they could say to a future employer, not only did I get a great education at Ohio University, but I got my name on a patent, I invented a product, and there it is that it's sitting on the store shelf, and I'm changing the lives of tens of thousands of people with Downs. We've also created several applications. We've created athletic equipment for adults with disability. We've created therapeutic vests with children with autism. And our goal is to take this natural talent and passion that you guys have and try to help you learn how to do it while you're at the university, but without the expectation that you're ever going to start an organization. Because we think it's fundamentally a foundation-building process for you to understand how blessed you are to get a great education, but also to understand what are the needs of the world, and people in need. So this is just like a rendering of what we call the time traveler. That's the device that we're working with children with Downs. And again, our foundation has invested over $100,000 just in that product. And not only is our goal to solve a social problem, but when we take it to market and we sell it, all the revenue goes back to the nonprofit, helping them deliver services, become more sustainable, and continue to serve our community. So we're embracing entrepreneurship and sustainability for our local community by helping them build socially benefiting products. So my big question for you guys is, how are you going to change the world? I've been very blessed to have a great business career. It's been the last 12 years as a family foundation, working with nonprofits, working with students. It's been a blessing every day that I get up and I get to go to the university, I get to go to nonprofits, they talk about people in need, and we talk about how we're going to invent something to solve that problem. So I've spoken for my 50 minutes, and I think they've allowed a few minutes for Q&A, and I'll be glad to entertain any questions that you might have. Questions? Yes, ma'am.
For the ideas that you choose for the foundation for nonprofits, what's the kind of selection process through that?
Well, we cheated at the very beginning. The question was, how did we choose the nonprofits? We cheated a little bit because after 12 years of being a grant maker and working with these nonprofits, we specifically chose ones that we already knew were entrepreneurial, who had already had a past history of coming up with ideas. They may not have been products, but they may have been services, but they had a long history in the community, that they were well respected, they had great leadership, they had already been able to execute on business plans and strategy, and so we cheated. But when we start to work with folks around the world, it's going to be much more difficult because they're not in our own backyard. Yes, sir.
What are some of the biggest differences you would see between trying to start an entrepreneurial company versus trying to start a nonprofit? What are some of your biggest, you figure out how to do this, but this doesn't quite work better?
Well, social entrepreneurship is a business. Matter of fact, social entrepreneurship can be a nonprofit or it can be a for-profit. If you think about companies like Tom's Shoes, Ben & Jerry's, Whole Foods, Starbucks, they are socially focused organizations. They're extremely, extremely successful. Matter of fact, let me give you a quick story about Whole Foods. I went to a directors conference last fall, and there was a board of directors from Whole Foods standing there. And he started talking about what makes us successful as Whole Foods is we want our customers to come in and be educated, so we give them free cooking classes. We want to buy so much of our resources locally from local farmers. We want our customers to eat healthy, so if they're willing to take their vacation time, we will pay for them to go to a 1-week retreat anywhere in the country to learn about healthy eating and exercise. We fully embrace everything that we do. And this old codger stands up in the back of the room and says, well, how does your shareholders like it that you're giving away all your profits? And the guy had a perfect response. So if I think about your age, right? So Whole Foods went public in 1992. If your parents, and they went public for about $2 a share, if your parents would have bought $20,000 worth of Whole Foods stocks, over the last 20 years, they have split 4 times. Their $20,000 investment is worth $80 million. You guys never wouldn't have to go to school. The guy said, see, we can do good for society and we can do good for shareholders. And I think a lot of times people think that either I have to start businesses because it's all about making money, or I start a nonprofit because it's all about doing good. And today, it's a new generation. Social entrepreneurship are people who are passionate about innovating entrepreneurship, but they have a balance in their life who say, I want to create personal wealth, but I want to create societal wealth at the same time. So same challenges, but it doesn't always have to be a nonprofit. But it's really not any different. Whether you're starting a for-profit tech company, you're starting something that's socially oriented, you're going to have the same challenges. So, other questions?
I'm kind of interested if you would extrapolate a bit on the process of how you got to working with Goodwill more when you were 25. You said your family was kind of...
I showed up.
You just showed up.
You know what? Sometimes you just got to show up. Nobody's going to invite you. You show up and you say, what can I do? Do you need any help with anything? You know? And the thing that I would recommend is find your passion. All of you have been affected by something. You know, you've lost a grandparent to cancer. You've seen a childhood friend get killed in an automobile accident. Something has happened in your life that you're passionate about. It could be homelessness. It could be poverty. It could be a wide variety. Find your passion and then show up. And when you start knocking on doors, saying, how can I help you? You earn your stripes, as they say. And sooner or later, they recognize that you keep showing up. And you would make a fabulous board member. Because they want board members who are great, passionate people who are ambassadors that go out in the community and tell others about the good work that they do. So it's really not that hard. It's like the whole front row is dominating here. Yeah. Oh ho, there we go.
In terms of entrepreneurship, both on a regular standard and then on social,
Yeah.
is there anything that you wish that you would have done when you were our age? Or on the opposite spectrum?
Well, first off, social entrepreneurship didn't even exist at your age. So there was 2 camps. You know, either you became a social worker or you went into business and made money. I was very blessed that even when I was making money, again, I was still very actively involved. But it's tough. Because what will happen is that if you start a great company and you need other people's money, the biggest challenge is that oftentimes you have to compromise your own value because now you've taken the money and they have a different expectation of what you're going to do than what you would do with your own money. So that's, I think, the toughest challenge for someone your age, if you don't have a nice bankroll, is when you have somebody else who's investing you, it pushes you sometimes in a different direction than you would naturally go if you had your choice. So, anybody other than the entrepreneurs in the front row? Any engineers in the room? All right, we'll go to the second row. Any questions?
How involved are you with social media?
With what?
How involved are you with social media?
So, describe social media.
Twitter, Facebook, like do you use that to your advantage?
I don't.
You don't know.
Well, what would be to my advantage? I'm the largest, I have 1,000 people on my LinkedIn account. We're the largest funder of social entrepreneurship in Columbus. I have more people who ask for money than I can give. Promoting myself is just causes me more. But where I use social media is in the fundraising side. So, we're working with some groups now and trying to create a mobile application for nonprofit fundraising. We do a lot of applications. We do a lot of things that are the social media side of helping nonprofits be successful, helping them promote themselves, educate the community on the good value that they do. So I don't use it for myself, but I embrace it for others. So I have brought my business card. I am not one of these guys that stands off. I'd be glad to give you each one of you my business card. If you want it, you can connect with me later. I'll make a special trip down here to Athens if we have 5 or 6 people who would like to get together. I am meeting with students every single day in Columbus, talking about their individual projects, their personal challenges of getting an education, but also wanting to do something with their lives. And so I would love to stay connected with you guys and figure out how I can help you. My personal commitment as a foundation, as someone who's been successful, is to be a coach and mentor to the next generation. So I hope you take me up on it. If nothing else, connect with me on LinkedIn, and you'll continue to see updates on some of the exciting projects that we're working on. So I thank you for your time. If you have questions, I'll stick around.